car of actually just a driver's view. I set up my camera so I can try and go up the hill here. Grab me these speakers. I don't know why. Just cause. Oh yeah. That was fun. Rods go in, they don't come out. Well, here we can start a paradox here. Taking video of video. So, anyways. And away we go. Let's go see if we can find some campers to scare the shit out of. So anyways, just out playing around a little bit. My first job I got today isn't until what is this? We got a boat. Not only is it Mad Max out here, we got Waterworld too. Oh, somebody just dragged this boat out here recently. I can see all the marks. This probably literally got dragged out here before I came out here. Would you look at that? If there's any parts on it that are worth getting. Oh, I sideswiped a boat. The Coast Guard's gonna kick my ass. That's funny. Well, if I got pinstripes on one side, I better get pinstripes on the other. This wouldn't make sense not to. Get a better view of the boat anyways. That's kind of a cool boat. At least it used to be. Get some matching pinstripes. Ooh. Yep. What just beeped at me? Ooh. Well, you know what beeped at me? This is kind of funny. Having such a new car as a Mad Max car, my driver's side rear door, hear that beep? Wasn't actually shut. I went into it sometime, and since this car is so twisted and banged up, the rear door's actually leading edge overlaps the quarter panel. So unless you slam the doors just get the first engagement of the latch. You know, when you just barely shut a door and you get the little beep. Oh, we got quail up here. So when I sideswiped the boat, man, I went to the bar, I went to the dock. If I find an RV park up here, I think I'll be good to go. But when I sideswiped the boat, it barely pushed the door shut almost to the point where it was going to latch. And then when I got away from the boat, it actually opened slightly again to the first step of the two-part latching mechanism. So then it thought that the door got opened while I was driving. So it actually did what it was supposed to do. Go figure. Ooh, that thing swung and hit the windshield. I can't have that hanging up there anymore. There's a Igloo cooler over there. I'm gonna see if it's in decent shape. See, there's that beep we got. Nope, just what I assumed it would be, the little button that locks the cooler shut that goes in the side, the spring-loaded one. It's gone. I mean, I could technically still make something out of it, but it's not the right size. It's a red cooler, and I have some blue coolers that aren't in that great a shape, but they're not the same size, I don't think. And I could take one red cooler and a blue cooler and put them next to each other somewhere on the roof to store something or protect something, and then it would look like I had the red and blues on the top with just the coolers. But who knows if I drive back past it. I'm not planning on it, but if it just so happens where the day takes me or morning takes me, it's a shame they dump all this crap out here. I'm kind of trying to make light of scavenging, kind of like Mad Max stuff, but it just sucks they gotta bring stuff out here and dump it. The boat, the piles of trash, furniture. I mean, granted, this is gonna be the Walmart of the world if stuff actually gets so bad that there is an apocalypse and you have to scavenge. But when it comes down to it, it ain't there yet, and there's no point in doing that stuff. I'm taking kind of a wide girth because there's honeybee hives all set up out here for honey. So I don't really want to bother them with my loud exhaust. So I'm kind of zigzagging across the terrain here. Oh, here's another good shooting spot. Well, I'll be damned. You know, I actually have enough time. Oh. I have enough time, I might actually do some shooting. Let's see if I can get through this. Oh. I think I got high centered. Get the, yeah, I don't think I can get the limited slip to kick in right here. So, but there are targets. Imagine if the police came out here because somebody was shooting and they're like, oh yeah, we've got a report of a Mad Max car out across on the golf course they just opened today, and shooting high caliber weapons. Come on, girl. Oh yeah. So glad that I put off-road tires back on this thing, because it's basically what I need to have. Right now, if I can avoid. I had to put a backup camera on here, Chuck, with Panzer platforms. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it wrong, because there's Panther and then there's Panzer. And Panzer is the tanks. What was that I said? Oh, you're welcome. But Panzer is a tank, and I know they have a group that gets together with police interceptors and Crown Victorias, and man, this is steep. It probably doesn't look like it's steep on the video, but I'm slipping around. So they've got all the Panther platform vehicles in their group, and it's called a Panzer Strike. So I don't know if I think Chuck's channel is Panther, or it might be Panzer, because Panzers are a type of, I think, a German tank. So, you know, they say Panzer Strike on Saving Private Ryan. And so it's kind of funny to be out here in a vehicle that was a police car that's got heavy artillery on it, even though it's not real. Don't tell the bad guys that I got fake guns, but I got fake guns and I got armored sides, and it's a Panther platform. I'm not going to be able to make that turn there, it's so short. Cut across here. So I feel like I'm driving a tank because course, you guys have seen when you look across the dashboard at the hood, I've got my engine ventilation, which pretty soon is going to be a little bit more visually encumbered. I haven't put videos in yet, but I'm going to be putting a supercharger on the hood, but it's not going to be your conventional looking supercharger. I've got a Bell helicopter turbojet control valve assembly, and it's going to go on top of a we'll surprise you what it's going to go on top of, but I'm probably going to make a top hat for that, so it's going to look like it's injected. It's almost going to look like it's got a turbo prop system on top of the supercharger body. And I'm going to have, the thing is whenever people put like a fake supercharger on their car, they 9 times out of 10, or should I say 98.9% times out of 10, they just put either a supercharger that's fake on the hood that goes up and down with the hood. It's usually made out of plastic or wood or something. Or if they get really froggy, they put a fake supercharger actually on the engine, up on brackets. So you have to cut a hole in the hood. When I say have to, that's kind of tongue-in-cheek, because any excuse to cut through a hood to put something from the engine that has to stick through the hood is just like four-wheel porn for guys like me. So I'm going to have this supercharger body mounted onto the actual engine so that when the engine moves, the supercharger moves, and the hole in the hood is actually going to be functional for the supercharger. And a lot of people don't have, even if they put the supercharger on, oh, this looks fun. I might have to stop talking for a moment to get up this. Oh yeah, buddy. Bogging deep right there. I left some more ruts for the next person to try and go up with a Mad Max police car. You're going to have to complain about me. Oh. So anyways, so they'll put a supercharger either on the hood, and if they get creative, they put like an electric motor, maybe like a cordless drill, that they actually hook up to a speed controller or just a switch. So they can just turn it on. It does 1 RPM. It spins a fake pulley for the fake blower to make everything fake look real. I'm sure you could take a speed controller from like an RC car and put an RC car motor, and since most RC cars run on anywhere from 7.2 volts DC to 11.1 if you have a I think a 4-cell or 5-cell, I don't remember. And no, it's gonna be more than that. It's a 6-cell, because each cell is 1.5 volts in an RC car. So what you end up with is you could put a speed controller on, hooked to the motor, run through your regular electrical system in your car, and you could either hook something. Ooh, I don't want to get stuck today. You could either put, man, there's big ruts here. You could actually actively have this supercharger spin faster with the motor RPM if you had a way to tell the speed controller the speed in which the engine's going, which is way too complicated for me. I mean, I have RC car parts and I've done goofy things like that, but when you're not actually running the RC car in the controller, it's almost impossible to get that to link together. So what I'm going to do, since on the Crown Victoria 4.6 Police Interceptor and the civilian model, the alternator mounts right on top of the motor, literally almost the highest thing on the motor itself, other than the intake and the throttle body. and some other components here and there that are actually higher than the alternator, but that's it. So you've got this alternator that's already got a belt going around it. Ooh. Again, I'm really happy I have rock crawler tires on because I just scraped the side of both sidewalls, which again is good because I put the white walls out, which looks kind of flashy, but I like having trail damage on the white walls, like them scraped up. There's actually some really cool trails I think I can actually realistically go down with two-wheel drive in my tank. So what I'm going to do, since there's already an alternator on top of the motor, there's already wiring going to the top of the motor, there's already a belt going to the place that runs the alternator. Well, I'm going to buy another bracket because on a Crown Victoria or a lot of Ford modular engines, sorry, I'm getting distracted. I have a really long, steep descent I am looking at. Let's see which one I want to do. This one looks funner. So I actually am going to remount the alternator on top of where the original mount was, because of course your alternator on your Crown Victoria doesn't stick through the hood. It doesn't even really come close. It's closer than most components, but I'm going to make spacers that take up the space of the original alternator. I'm going to put my alternator, because I have a spare alternator I carry around, but the spare alternator is from a civilian Crown Vic and it doesn't have the overrun pulley on it that has a bearing in it, which I tried to demonstrate before that keeps you from throwing the serpentine belt if you're driving the car very aggressively, and there's a lot harder shifts and higher RPM shift points in a Police Interceptor PCM. That's what gives you the extra horsepower and performance. Well, when you've got this big long serpentine belt and the longest stretch of the belt is from, I think, the power steering on one end and maybe the air conditioner on the other side, or probably the idler pulley. And the idler pulley is what keeps the tension on the whole reciprocating assembly of the belt. So I'm going to remount the original alternator with the noisy pulley, which is, I like the noisy pulley. It only makes noise when you really rev the car up. I don't know if I can, nah, I can't get it to do it here. These tires, I shit you not, they grip so much better on mud and dirt than they do on the street. I mean, I'm going to punch it right here, and I wish I really wanted to take a video of this, but I'm going to go from just a dig right now, literally, no pun intended, and I'm going to punch it to go up this hill, and I can see how damp it is. I mean, it's wet out here. But I'm going to punch it, and this car is actually going to launch. I'm sure it'll spin a little bit, but with these off-road tires, it's actually going to launch. So hopefully I don't lose one of my cameras in the back seat. So. Oh, I did get it to spin. Oh, there it goes. So I was surprised. Every place else I tried to get it to spin, it wouldn't spin. Let's try it on harder pack. That's weird. Back there it was gripping really good. Maybe I just wasn't giving enough gas. If this was in my other Crown Vic, the gray one, that thing is touchy. That car is, of course, a lot faster than this one. But I think even with off-road tires on it, it would have lit up just barely touching. It would have done that, just barely touching the gas, even with off-road tires. Because that car will spin on dry pavement. It'll spin both tires, no problem, if I do more than 3/4 throttle. And if I take off hard with it, and I cut back to about 3/4 or half throttle before it shifts in the second, it'll actually bark the tires in second. So anyways, so I'm really glad I got off-road tires on it, because going back to people making stuff to look like the part, I drive my Mad Max cars. This car's street legal and I drive it. I go off-roading with it. Yeah, it's gripping really good on this stuff. And you can see in the video, the other video, that this is actually like mud, and it's gripping. I can hear the mud coming off the sides of hitting the sides of the car. So, let's see if I could, I want to do an experiment and push some parking brake and see if I can get the limited slip to work. Come on, girl. Now, there's just not enough load. If one of my rear wheels is actually unloaded, it won't do the limited slip. I just dug a big hole, but I'm not worried because I ain't scared. There it goes. Oh, that engaged a little bit quicker than I expected. It kind of hurt my neck. So anyways, I actually take my off-road Mad Max car that's made to be out in the middle of nowhere where there are no roads. Because where we're going, we don't need roads. So back to the supercharger, I'm going to remount my original alternator above. I'm literally going to take the same space of the original alternator and relocate the original alternator higher. That's going to bring it right up through the hood by maybe a couple inches. So I'm going to have the top of the pulley and the body of the alternator. Oh, there's a rut from somebody turning around. This is probably a racetrack here. Let's get through here. So I'm going to have the actual pulley for the alternator is going to be sticking through the roof a little bit. Not much, maybe just barely. I'm going to have the whole supercharger body sticking up through the hood. I'm actually going to have, yeah, this is a dirt bike racetrack here, so I'm not going to dig it up. That's all I need is find out somebody came out here and found ruts the size of rear tires on a Jeep in the middle of their straightaway and whipped them off their bike. So I'm going to have the supercharger body covering the top of the engine, mounted to the engine, and the alternator hidden under the supercharger body with part of the pulley just peeking out the front. That's actually going to have the serpentine belt. I'm going to buy a longer belt. I'm going to have to take some string or some rope and put the string through the serpentine system exactly where it needs to go. And then I'll buy the belt. So I'm going to have to carry a different belt for this car. I always have spare belts, but unless I leave another alternator in the stock location, which I did think of doing, and I might do. I was thinking, that's a bunch of extra weight. But geez, I put so much weight on this car. I'm checking what time it is so I know when I can get back to go to work. So first off, I think I might bottom out here. Nice. First off, I'm going to have the alternator remounted so it's high enough that it kind of sticks through the hood. I'm going to have the supercharger body over the alternator, and then I'm going to add another pulley that looks like a supercharger pulley. Even though the alternator pulley kind of looks like one, it's not quite big enough. The supercharger pulley is probably about twice the diameter, maybe not twice, but it's at least 50% larger in diameter than your regular alternator pulley. So then I'm going to find a way to mount that supercharger pulley on the front of the what is this? Oh, we can see the lake here. That's cool. Nice. So I can actually see having the supercharger with the pulley on the front, but I won't see the alternator pulley because the alternator pulley will be hidden, but the actual supercharger pulley, which is mounted on the front of the alternator pulley, is going to be able to spin the exact same RPM as the engine. When the engine starts, the pulley spins. when the engine shuts off, the pulley stops spinning. So that's kind of a cool place to chill. We got a couch over here. So maybe I'll show you under the hood kind of what I'm doing. I don't have the parts with me. But we'll give Charlotte a rest. And I'm not going to be running this anymore, so I'm going to say goodbye to my other camera.